All right, let's just get right into it. Over the last year, OpenAI has been living this kind of crazy paradox. I mean, on one hand, you've got a company that looks like it's in total turmoil. Executives are leaving, it's losing billions, and it's wrapped up in a really tragic controversy. But on the other hand, it just dropped a technological bombshell so big it has the experts completely stunned. So, what is the real story here? And that's really the big question we're tackling. Is OpenAI on the verge of just crumbling under its own weight? Or has this latest breakthrough basically made it untouchable, a company that's now simply too big and way too important to fail? Let's break it all down. So first, you really have to look at the internal chaos, the human cost of all this. Because behind all the shiny new product demos, 2024 has been an incredibly rough year for the people actually working inside OpenAI. Yeah, the most sobering part of this whole thing is the tragic death of Sutra Balaji. He was a former researcher at the company, and he had been very public about his ethical concerns. His passing, which happened just 8 days after his name showed up in a lawsuit against OpenAI, has cast this really dark shadow over the entire organization. And this tragedy came right after a period of just intense instability. It all kicked off with that wild Silicon Valley soap opera in late 2023, you remember, when CEO Sam Altman was fired and then dramatically rehired. But that wasn't the end of it, not by a long shot. The turmoil just kept rolling into 2024 with a ton of high-profile people leaving, including co-founder Ilya Sutskever and CTO Myra Murati, and it all boiled over with employee strikes. And those strikes, they really pointed to the core issue here. This wasn't just about money. The employees were signaling that they were deeply frustrated with the leadership's lack of transparency and the fundamental direction the company was headed. It really exposed a culture that was cracking under the pressure of its own insane growth. Okay, so on top of all the cultural drama, let's talk about the money, because the amount of cash OpenAI is burning through just to keep the lights on is absolutely staggering. First, you gotta wrap your head around the scale of this operation. Just to keep ChatGPT online, answering all of our questions costs an estimated $700,000 every single day. That is a massive, massive operational cost. And well, those daily costs add up fast. Even with some impressive revenue coming in, the company is on track to lose a mind-boggling $5 billion this year alone. That's not just a loss, it's a financial hemorrhage. So, you might be asking, how on earth does a company survive that kind of loss? Well, with a fire hose of venture capital. OpenAI just raised $6.6 billion, the largest VC round in history. This is the ultimate high-stakes gamble. Lose billions, but raise even more on the promise that you're going to dominate the future. And this chart right here, man, it really puts it all into perspective. That huge gap between the money coming in and the money going out tells the whole story. It paints a picture of a company betting absolutely everything on a future that is not guaranteed, and it raises some serious questions about its long-term sustainability. And while all this is happening on the inside, things are getting tough on the outside too. That initial wow factor of generative AI is starting to fade, and some very powerful competitors are closing in fast. Take Sora, for example, their text-to-video model. The first demos were breathtaking. I mean, they looked like a total game changer. But when it was finally released to the public, the reality was, a little less impressive. People pointed out all these physics glitches and weird, unnatural movements, and powerful rivals had already kind of stolen some of its thunder. Plus, the whole launch was clouded by this controversy over its training data. The tech reviewer Marques Brownlee asked Sora to make a video of a tech reviewer, and the AI created an image with a plant that looked almost identical to one in his own studio. That's what prompted this question. He's basically asking, where did you really get this data from? And this all ties into a much bigger identity crisis. Remember, OpenAI started as a nonprofit. Its whole mission was to build safe AGI for all of humanity. Now it's changing into a for-profit company, and that move is so controversial that it's facing a lawsuit from co-founder Elon Musk and has created this bizarre, unlikely alliance between Musk and Mark Zuckerberg to oppose it. So, with that whole backdrop of crisis, the internal fights, the financial pressure, the mission drift, you'd think the company was toast. But then, right when things looked their worst, they revealed something that completely changed the entire conversation. They announced a totally new kind of AI, what they're calling a reasoning model. Now, this isn't just about spitting out answers it found in its training data.
This is an AI that is designed to actually think, to break a problem down into steps, to check its own work, and to come up with genuinely new solutions. And here is the wow moment. Just look at these scores on a key AGI benchmark test. GPT-4o, their most advanced public model, scored just 5%. An earlier internal model, o1, got to 25%. But their new model, o3, an absolutely incredible 87.5%. That isn't just an improvement, that's a monumental leap forward. And this insane performance holds up everywhere you look. In competitive coding, o3 is better than 99% of human programmers. It outscores actual PhD students on PhD-level science questions. And on a super hard math test that completely stumped every other AI out there, o3 scored over 25%. This is what the industry calls a step function improvement, and it's a huge deal.
So, where does all this leave us? On one hand, you have a company that seems simultaneously brilliant and broken. The breakthrough is very, very real. But so are all the fundamental problems, and they haven't just magically disappeared. And there are two really big caveats to keep in mind here. First, for all its genius, it can solve problems that stump PhD mathematicians. o3 can still fail at simple logic questions that a 5-year-old could answer. And second, let's be real, OpenAI has a track record of showing off these incredible demos for products like Sora that turn out to be a lot more tame when they're actually released. Which brings us right back to where we started. This amazing technological leap, it doesn't erase the internal chaos. It doesn't erase the serious ethical questions facing the company, questions that are tragically highlighted by the death of Sucha Balaji and what that whole situation says about their commitment to transparency. So, is this a story of a genius breakthrough that's going to paper over all the cracks? Or is it the story of a brilliant company that is fundamentally breaking apart from the inside out? The craziest part is that right now, both of those things seem to be true at the exact same time, leaving OpenAI at the most critical, most dramatic turning point in its history.